She ordered hits like a cartel boss, hid $800,000 in her apartment walls, and ran multi-million-dollar empires while raising families and dodging the feds. From Griselda Blanco's motorcycle assassins to Stephanie St. Clair going to war with the NYPD and Dutch Schultz, these women weren't sidekicks. They were the ones calling the shots. Want to know how the richest black female mafia bosses built untouchable legacies, stacked millions, and even inspired Hollywood stories? Stay tuned in. What you're about to hear is wilder than fiction. Number 14, Stephanie Street Clair.
Was a lady who ran Harlem. Her name was Madam Stephanie St. Clair.
Stephanie Street Clair, also known as Madam Queen or Queenie, was a formidable figure in early 20th century Harlem. She was born on December 24, 1897, in the French West Indies, and immigrated to the United States in 1911. After settling in Harlem, New York, St. Clair became a prominent entrepreneur and community activist, popularly known as the leader of a successful illegal lottery known as the numbers game. In an era when African Americans faced significant financial discrimination, St. Clair's numbers operation provided a means for the black community to invest and build wealth. Although it was a male-dominated industry, she was one of the few women who dominated the industry. She earned respect and notoriety for her business knowledge and fierce independence. St. Clair used her wealth to support civil rights causes, fund community programs, and educate Harlem residents about their legal rights. Her refusal to give up her control of her operations led to a notorious rivalry with mobster Dutch Schultz. Despite threats and violence, St. Clair stood her ground and even publicly exposed police corruption and the injustices faced by the black community. After she retired from the numbers game, she continued her activism, writing newspaper columns addressing issues like police brutality and racial discrimination. St. Clair passed away in December 1969 and left behind a legacy as a trailblazing businesswoman and advocate for justice. Her life and impact have been shown in different media, including the movie Hoodlum, 1997, where she was portrayed by Cicely Tyson, and the graphic novel Queenie, Godmother of Harlem, by Aurelie Levy and Elizabeth Colomba. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 99% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Number 13, Delronda Hood.
Typical male response.
What is those, like 38?
50s.
I'm gonna call you Big 50.
I don't give a damn what you call me. Just call me when you want to make some money.
Delronda Denise Hood, widely known as Big 50, is a former Detroit queenpin whose life journey goes from the gritty streets of East Side Detroit to becoming a media personality and entrepreneur. Hood was the eldest of 4 siblings. She became a mother at 15, and by 18, she was already deeply rooted in Detroit's underground economy. Her association with local hustlers and dancers led her into the trade, where she built a lucrative empire. At the height of her operations, she was known for her wealth, influence, and command over Detroit's streets. However, her reign ended with incarceration. During that period, she faced different health challenges, including a diagnosis of sarcoidosis. After her release, Hood reinvented herself. She launched Godmother's Touch, a non-profit organization, and became a media figure, hosting the radio show Keeping It 100 with Big 50. She also ventured into music with her single Do It Like Big 50 and acted in the movie One More Flip. Hood's life story was dramatized in the BET Plus film American Gangster Presents Big 50, the Delronda Hood story, starring Remy Ma. Today, she lives in suburban Detroit and is now focusing on her family and ventures. Number 12, Dalry Mapp.
Bombed his house that day. The Cleveland police got a tip that another bookie named Virgil Ogletree might have been involved with the bombing, and that he was hiding out in the house of Dalry Mapp.
Dalry Mapp was born in 1923 and is best remembered as the woman behind the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case Mapp v. Ohio in 1961, which reshaped American criminal procedure. The ruling established that evidence obtained through unconstitutional searches and seizures could not be used in state state courts, thus reinforcing Fourth Amendment protections nationwide. She was born in Alabama but later resided in Cleveland, Ohio. Mapp was not only a pivotal figure in constitutional law, but also led a colorful and controversial life. In the 1950s, she was romantically involved with Shondor Burns, a known mobster involved in illegal gambling. Her association with underworld figures fueled rumors and gave rise to a legendary reputation. In 1957, she had a legal history when police forcibly entered her home without a valid warrant, allegedly searching for a bombing suspect and illegal betting materials. While they did not find the suspect, they claimed to discover obscene materials, leading to her arrest and conviction. That conviction was later overturned by the Supreme Court in a ruling that dramatically expanded civil liberties. Mapp's encounters with the law didn't end there. In 1971, New York police raided her home and found and stolen property. This time, they went with a valid warrant. She was convicted and served about 8 years in prison, though her sentence was later reduced. After her release, Mapp worked with nonprofits that provided legal aid to inmates and explored business ventures. She was a champion of civil liberties and had connections to some questionable people. Though rumors linked her to organized crime, her biggest impact was in shaping American law. Number 11, Linda Taylor.
Her name was Linda Taylor, and she was identified by the Chicago Tribune in 1974 as a person who had committed welfare fraud while driving fancy cars, including a Cadillac, and very quickly...
Linda Taylor, born around 1926 as Martha Louise White, became famous in the 1970s under the nickname Welfare Queen, a name that became politically charged when Ronald Reagan used her story to criticize government welfare programs. Though initially known for defrauding the government out of around $8,000 using multiple aliases, the truth is, Taylor's life is far more complex than that. Taylor was a master con artist who operated under at least 80 different names, and her criminal activities extended far beyond welfare fraud. She exploited numerous public assistance programs by faking identities, inventing fictitious children, and collecting several benefits in different states. Investigations later revealed that Taylor was also involved in more serious crimes, including bigamy, kidnapping, theft, and insurance fraud. She was even suspected in multiple cases of allegedly benefiting financially from the deaths of people in her circle, though she was never formally charged. Her manipulation extended into personal relationships as well, where she deceived lovers and acquaintances, often using charm, coercion, and lies. She kidnapped children by acting as their legal guardian, and some of her scams centered on law enforcement officials who investigated her described her operations as huge. Despite her crimes, her media as a symbol of welfare abuse was the highlight of her legacy. She became a political talking point rather than a subject of criminal justice reform or mental health inquiry. In recent years, journalists and historians, particularly in Josh Levin's book The Queen, have worked to tell the full story, highlighting not only her deception but also how her story was weaponized in public discourse. Linda Taylor's life was a web of lies, fraud, and myth. Now, number 10, Katharine Gregg. Katharine Gregg, a loyal companion in crime, was born in 1951 in Boston and is widely known not for orchestrating criminal activities herself, but for her unwavering loyalty to one of America's most notorious crime lords, James Whitey Bulger. Gregg, who was a former dental hygienist, became Bulger's romantic partner in the 1970s, a relationship that would ultimately entangle her in a decades-long saga of crime, flight, and federal pursuit. In 1995, as Bulger was tipped off about a pending federal indictment, he disappeared, not alone, but with Gregg. The couple lived on the run for 16 years, moving from place to place, ultimately settling in a rent-controlled apartment in Santa Monica, California, under false identities. Despite being one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives, Bulger managed to live in plain sight with Gregg by his side. When they were finally apprehended in 2011, authorities discovered a cache of weapons weapons and over $800,000 in cash hidden in the walls of their apartment. In 2012, Greg was sentenced to 8 years in prison for harboring a fugitive, identity fraud, and conspiracy. She later received an additional 21 months for contempt of court after refusing to testify before a grand jury about others who may have assisted them during their time on the run. Although Greg was never directly linked to Bulger's violent crimes or his leadership of Boston's Winter Hill Gang, her role in sustaining their life in hiding and evading justice was a major one. Her wealth and access to resources, combined with her devotion, played a key role in shielding one of the most dangerous men in organized crime history. Catherine Gregg is a symbol of how loyalty and love can sometimes become entangled with crime. Number 9. Virginia Hill.
Was an American organized crime figure. An Alabama native, she became a Chicago outfit courier during the mid-1930s. She was famous for being the girlfriend of mobster Bugsy Siegel. Born Oni Virginia Hill.
Virginia Hill, born Oni. Virginia Hill on August 26, 1916 in Lipscomb, Alabama, came from humble beginnings and became a significant figure in American organized crime during the 1930s and 1940s. After moving to Chicago in the early 1930s, she became involved with the Chicago outfit, serving as a trusted courier and liaison among mobsters. With her intelligence, discretion, and charm, she effectively navigated the male-dominated underworld. Hill's most notable association was with Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, a prominent mobster known for developing Las Vegas. Their passionate and tumultuous relationship placed her at the center of significant criminal activities. In 1947, shortly before Siegel's assassination, she left for Europe. This made people suspect she knew about the assassination. In 1951, Hill testified before the U.S. Senate's Kefauver Committee investigating organized crime, denying any involvement despite her known associations. She relocated to Europe and settled in Salzburg, Austria, with her son after facing indictment for tax evasion in 1954. On March 24, 1966, Hill was found dead from an overdose, a death officially ruled as suicide, although some believe it was a foul play. Hill's life has been depicted in various media, including the 1991 film Bugsy, where Annette Bening portrayed her, showcasing her complex role in the history of organized crime. Number 8. Jemiker Thompson.
In the summer of 1984, Jemiker Thompson was on top of the world.
At that time, it was nothing for me to have 50 kilos of
Jemiker Thompson, also known as Jemiker Thompson Hairston, became popular as one of the most powerful female in Los Angeles during the 1980s crack epidemic. Born in South Central Los Angeles, her early life was marked by hardship. At age 8, she and her mother were evicted from their home. That experience fueled her desire for wealth and control. Thompson began her criminal career by collecting payments for her boyfriend, Anthony Daff Mosley, dealer. In 1980, they got married and expanded their operations into distribution. After Mosley was Thompson continued to grow the business and eventually distributed across multiple U.S. cities and established a hair distribution company, which authorities later identified as a front for money laundering. In 1993, after 2 years on the run, she was arrested at her son's 6th grade graduation. She was convicted of conspiracy to distribute and money laundering and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. During her incarceration, Thompson experienced a religious conversion and began ministering to fellow inmates. After serving 12 years, she was released in 2005 and founded Second Chance Evangelist Ministries in Los Angeles, dedicating her life to faith and community outreach. She co-authored her memoir, Queen Pin, with David Ritz in 2010, detailing her journey from Lord to evangelical minister. What an amazing transformation. Thompson's story has been featured in different media, such as the Netflix series Lords and A&E's Gangsters, America's Most Evil. Each of these pieces showcased her transformation and commitment to guiding others away from crime. Number 7. Griselda Blanco.
Blanco. Born in poverty in Colombia, Blanco rose up from a life of petty crime to become the head of a...
Griselda Blanco, who was nicknamed the Black Widow, or La Madrina, was one of the most feared and influential figures in the history of the international trade. She was born on February 15, 1943 in Cartagena, Colombia, and rose from poverty to a key player in the Medellin cartel during the 1970s and 1980s. She was a pioneer in trafficking from Colombia to the United States and particularly targeted Miami. Her ruthless business tactics helped shape the violent and chaotic era known as the Miami War. At the height of her power, everyone believed Blanco was raking in millions of dollars each week, and she became one of the first women to lead a major cartel. She earned a chilling reputation for her cold-blooded strategies, reportedly ordering hundreds of including contract that even targeted her lovers and associates. That earned her the nickname the Black Widow. She's not just known for her extreme wealth, but also her brutal violence. In 1985, the U.S. authorities captured Blanco, and she was sentenced to nearly 2 decades in prison. After her release, she was deported to Colombia in 2004, where she lived quietly for several years. But karma is real, as they say. Her violent past eventually caught up with her. On September 3, 2012, she was shot and in Medellin by a motorcycle assassin. That was a method she had popularized during her reign. Griselda Blanco's life has since inspired numerous documentaries and films. Most recently, Netflix released Griselda starring Sofia Vergara, dramatizing her rise and fall. Number 6, Avonda Dowling.
Avonda's gang. Her gang terrorizes the streets of Miami. She is known for her violent war with the rival Boobie Boys gang led by the notorious Kenneth Boobie Williams. Dowling, prominent
Avonda Vanai Dowling, also known as Black Girl and Vonda Jackson, became one of Miami's most formidable lords during the 1980s and 1990s. She operated primarily out of Overtown and Liberty City and led a powerful and violent trafficking organization known as the Vonda Gang. Her crew was famous for distributing large quantities of and crack while engaging in deadly turf wars with rival groups like the Boobie Boys. Dowling rose to power in organized crime through strategic partnerships and brutal tactics. She allegedly collaborated with militant groups and corrupt officials, engaging in crimes like extortion, money laundering, and for hire. Her reputation for violence and control earned her both fear and respect on the streets. In 2002, she was indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of conspiracy to distribute, with allegations spanning from 1984 to 1999. At trial, witnesses testified to her leadership role in the trade and her involvement in multiple related to her criminal enterprise. Even though the jury found her guilty of conspiring to distribute less than 500 grams of after considering the broader scope of her activities, the court sentenced her to 20 years in federal prison. While incarcerated, Dowling continued to exert influence, allegedly orchestrating distribution within the prison system. Her story has been documented in different media, highlighting her as a rare female figure who rose to prominence in the criminal underworld. Recent reports say that she has been released, but there's no official confirmation yet. Number 5, Mamie Hatcher Johnson.
Mamie Hatcher Johnson. Mamie Hatcher Johnson stood by her husband, the infamous Harlem crime boss Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, rising from an enforcer for Numbers Queen Stephanie St.
Mamie Hatcher Johnson was the wife of Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, one of the most famous gangsters in Harlem's history. But Mamie was much more than just a mobster's wife. She was a writer, a woman of strength, and a witness to a powerful chapter in American history. Mamie was born in North Carolina and later moved to New York City, where she worked as a waitress. She met Bumpy Johnson in the early 1940s. They married in 1948 and had a daughter together. Mamie stayed by Bumpy's side during the rise and fall of his empire in Harlem. He was known for his control over the neighborhood, connections to the Italian mob, and his Robin Hood-like ways of helping the community while running illegal businesses. After Bumpy Johnson died in 1968, Mamie kept a quiet life for many years. But in 2008, she released a memoir titled Harlem Godfather, The Rap on My Husband, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. In the book, she told her side of the story about the man behind the crime legend. She spoke of their love, his intelligence, and the danger they lived through. She also cleared up myths and added her voice to a history that had mostly been told by men. Mamie was respected for her honesty and courage. Even in her 90s, she remained sharp and proud of the life she lived. She passed away in 2009 at the age of 94. Through her story, we have a glimpse into Harlem's past, book, The Criminal Underworld, and the personal side of one of its biggest figures. Through her words, Mamie Hatcher Johnson made sure her husband's story, and her own, would not be forgotten. Number 4, Tanya Smith.
And I walked right out.
Tanya Smith started defrauding banks as a teenager to support needy neighbors.
Tanya Smith grew up in Minneapolis. By age 13, she was bold enough to fly to Michael Jackson's home, hoping to meet him. As a teen, she learned to hack into bank systems, eventually stealing over $40 million. She used fake accounts and runners to move the money. Her skills made her a target for the FBI. At 30, Tanya was sentenced to over 13 years in prison for fraud. In 1988, she escaped by disguising herself as a lawyer and walking out. She was caught 8 months later and received a longer sentence. Tanya's story is detailed in her memoir, Never Saw Me Coming. She shares her experiences, including using her twin sister in court to confuse witnesses. The book is being adapted into a movie. After her release in 1999, she moved to Los Angeles. Now she works part-time and helps the homeless. Her daughter encouraged her to write the book to share her story and inspire others. Although her initial intentions were good, her dating nature eventually led her into the criminal world. Number 3, Charmaine Roman.
Over the years, I would say the Charmaine Roman's organization smuggled in tens of thousands of pounds.
Charmaine Suzette Roman, born on July 4, 1971 in Central Village, St. Catherine Parish, Jamaica, rose from humble beginnings to one of Florida's most notorious traffickers. After immigrating to the United States, she established a significant operation in Florida, distributed large quantities of and laundered millions of dollars. Roman's criminal enterprise was extensive. She transported from Jamaica to Florida and distributed it across the state. Her organization was linked to violent crimes, including homicides, and was known for its use of firearms and intimidation tactics. In 2013, she was arrested during a traffic stop, leading to the seizure of over 3,200 pounds of firearms and approximately $200,000 in cash. Authorities described her as the leader of a Jamaican cartel operating in Florida. Despite her criminal activities, Roman was also a family-oriented woman and grandmother. Her story was featured in the television series American Gangster Trap Queens, highlighting the complexities of her dual existence. Her case reveals the challenges law enforcement faces in dealing with sophisticated trafficking operations that span international borders and involve intricate individuals. Her ability to run a large criminal operation while appearing normal shows the cleverness and adaptability of those in organized crime. Number 2, Wendy Jenkins.
Fire while he's behind bars. Wendy Jenkins. Wendy Jenkins is the wife of American former gang leader and co-founder of Gangster Disciples Larry Hoover. The two started their romantic relationship.
Wendy Jenkins was born on August 12, 1950. Since 2020, she has been best known as the longtime partner and the wife of Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples gang. Their relationship started in the late 1960s, and despite many challenges, including Hoover's incarceration, they remained committed to each other. After decades of denied marriage request, they were officially married on January 9, 2020. Throughout Hoover's imprisonment, Jenkins has been a steadfast advocate for his rights and well-being. She co-founded the Larry Hoover Project to secure clemency for Hoover, or at least have him admitted into the Federal Bureau of Prisons step-down program, which would allow him to serve his sentence in a less restrictive environment. In her efforts to maintain family connections, Jenkins has faced different obstacles. Visitation rights were often limited or revoked, and she encountered challenges during visits, such as being required to alter her grandson's costume deemed inappropriate by prison staff. Despite these hardships, she was dedicated and ensured that her children and grandchildren maintained a relationship with Hoover. In the 1990s, Jenkins was involved in a concert promotion business and was accused of assisting in money laundering activities related to Hoover's operations. However, she was not charged with any crimes. As of 2022, Jenkins was 72 years old and had an estimated net worth of $4 million. Her unwavering support for Hoover and her advocacy efforts have made her a notable figure in discussions about prison reform and the rights of incarcerated individuals. And number 1 on the list is the First Lady of BMF, Tonessa Welch.
One of BMF's most powerful figures was Tanisa Toni Welch, often referred to as the First Lady of BMF.
She's a former trafficker turned motivational speaker, author, and executive producer. Born and raised in Detroit, Welch became involved in street life at a young age and eventually found herself entangled in one of the most powerful organizations in U.S. history. During the 1990s and early 2000s, BMF, which was led by Demetrius Big Meech Flannery and Terry Southwest T, Flannery ran a nationwide cocaine distribution network and gained popularity for blending hip-hop culture with the trade. Welch, who was romantically involved with Southwest T, held a significant role within the organization. She was managing money, business operations, and maintaining the group's lavish public image. In 2005, she was indicted and later convicted for money laundering. She served nearly 5 years in federal prison. Her time behind bars became a turning point, leading her to distancing herself from her past and focusing on personal growth and redemption. After her release, Welch dedicated herself to empowering other women affected by incarceration and the trade. She co-founded Silent Heart, a non-profit organization that supports women and families impacted by the justice system. In 2021, she also released a memoir detailing her rise and fall within BMF and her journey toward transformation. Welch's life was dramatized in the BET Plus original film, First Lady of BMF, the Tanisa Welch story, of which she was the executive producer. Actress Michelle Michinor portrayed her in the movie. Today, Tanisa Welch uses her story to educate and inspire. Her transformation from queen pin to community advocate shows it's never too late to rewrite your story. And if you thought these mafia queens were powerful, wait till you see the black women who took over boardrooms, governments, and global movements. Click on the next video to meet the most powerful black women who changed the game without breaking the law.